I grew up in this church from the Robinson Road Day era. I attended youth group here, and I'd say they were probably like some of the best times of my life here. And at that age, you know, I just made a decision to be the Lord of my own life. And I sort of walked away from church. And, you know, for I'd say like the last 20 years, I've prioritised chasing things myself of this world. And in return for that, I've suffered, you know, really bad depression and anxiety for that 20 years, and trying to fill that and cure that myself through like drugs and alcohol and a lot of partying up until about 2023 when, you know, I remember I was at home and, you know, I just felt no hope, and carrying the weight and the mental agony of that sort of led me to a place where I decided that I would end my own life. You know, it's a pretty hard thing to come to be in that place, and it was something that I hid from the world, that I felt that way and I struggled in that. And, you know, I decided that the last thing that I hadn't tried, that everything this world had to offer was Jesus. I decided that, you know, I'd give God like one last try, otherwise that was it. And I literally said that to God too. I said, like, you know, if you are real, then, you know, you have to rescue me or else I'm out. And that night that I made that decision, I went to my study, and I thought, like, do I still have a Bible? And I did have a Bible, and it was one that my life group leader, Al, he gave me that Bible. And, you know, it's amazing how God works, because I don't think when he gave it to me, I actually read what he had written on the inside. And, you know, when I opened that up and I read the words he had written, like, you know, full of hope and love and like God's promise for my life. And that really encouraged me, but also made me feel the way I hadn't felt in forever. It started to change my life. It really did. I really realised there is so much power in our tongue. And, you know, but daily reading the Bible and saying those words over my own life, that really started to transition me into a lot better space. In early 2024, I had this very profound dream, which was really unique because I wasn't dreaming. I hadn't had a dream in years. I don't remember the last time I slept properly or I had dreams, and I had this dream, and it was myself and Makita, my wife, and our daughter Amelia, and I was getting them ready to go to a church we were trying, and literally hop in the car, and we started driving towards that church, and I got down to like not even the end of our street, and I just felt God say to me, like, I want you to go to Ripley. And like I laughed. I'm like, nah, like not for any reason. It just felt like that part of my life I couldn't have again, and that was like not the place for me. However, you know, like the next thing I know in the dream, like I'm hopping out of the car in the bottom car park here at church. You know, I was getting the girls out and we were holding hands, we were walking, and, you know, I haven't stepped foot on this premises for 20 years. And so realistic. I remember I walked to the paved footpath in the bottom car park, and as soon as I put my foot on those pavers, I just felt this weight, like, you know, I had just unbelievable weight come off me. And then as I like went to look up at the church building, I just remember like it just flashed forward to the front of the church near the stage or the altar, and I just saw this big word, freedom. And, you know, like it was crazy to me that like I could be shown that. So I woke up the next morning, I told Makita about the dream, and we talked about it, and she's like, well, what do you think it means? And I'm like, I think I'm stuffed. So like, I think we gotta go Ripley. So me being super obedient, you know, I acted straight away, and I didn't, you know, something like always done is I've always spoken to Al since I left church all the way through to present day, and like he told me about Move of God coming up. So I was like hesitant, juggling between like, you know, obeying God and also like getting over my own pride. So I actually did come to the first year of Move of God out here on the Friday night, sat up in my comfort zone in the back row. But it's the first time I'd been to church in a long time, and first time in 20 something years to hear. I do remember walking in, I was quite anxious, and when they started playing praise and worship, I just felt a really big peace come over me, and it was just beautiful. Like, I've always struggled with praise and worship. I just felt God's presence, and I hadn't felt it that thick since I was a kid going to Christian conferences with my parents. So I spoke to Makita, and then December 14, 2024 is the first weekend I came out here with my wife and our kids. And, you know, the service was awesome, and like the thing that really struck me was like, honestly, is like just the authenticity here. And to walk into this church and see like, you know, so many people with their hands lifted up. People like desperate, like, you know, really desperate, leaning into God and what he was doing, and families, individuals, just like people really wanting more. And it's true what was shown in that dream. Like, I felt so much freedom coming here, and like that I did feel weight every week start to come off me. And I was reminded again that God wanted me to go into full surrender and be bold in the act of being baptised in my church, in front of my church family, and invite my family and friends here. I can honestly say that, like, the day I was baptised, I came up from that water, like, I really believe that I've been healed from depression and anxiety, and to accept me and take me back when I thought, like, this would never happen again. I never thought I'd be back in this building. I never thought, like, I could feel free of that. I thought that pain had to be permanent, and that was who I was. So, yeah, all I can say is, like, all power and glory to him. That's it. Like, yeah.